Okay, we use different types of graphs for different situations, so we're going to pick the most appropriate graph. The 8th graders at OMS record the amount of hours they read during the summer. They are instructed to display their responses using the following intervals: 0 through 10, 11 through 20, 21 to 30, and 31 to 40. Which type of graph would be the most appropriate to display the data? Well, because we're using intervals, the most appropriate is going to be the histogram. Okay, why? Because the histogram shows data grouped into intervals. Okay, Mr. Art wants to compare the favorite subjects of the boys versus the girls in his class. Which type of graph would be the most appropriate to display the data? Well, he wants to compare, and he's got the two categories here, the boys and the girls. So because we have the two categories, the double bar graph is going to be the most appropriate. Because the double bar graph allows us to compare the boys and the girls on one graph. So we can put those bars side by side, and that would allow us to have both the boys and the girls on one graph. Best Buy wants to display the amount of CDs sold for each genre of music. Which type of graph would they use? Well, they want to list it by each genre, which is going to be a category. So we wouldn't use circle graph because it doesn't say anything about percents. Line graph, it doesn't say anything about overtime. Histogram, it doesn't say anything about intervals. So that gives us the bar graph, because the bar graph compares amounts in categories. And our categories in this case would be the genres. All right, Mayor Bloomberg wants to display data collected about the number of tourists that visited the city per month for the first 6 months of the year. What kind of graph would be most appropriate to show monthly changes during this period? Well, the one that's going to be the most appropriate because of the time would be the line graph. Okay, the circle graph, there's nothing about percents. The histogram, there's nothing about intervals. And the bar graph, there's not really the, I mean, you could put it in categories, but the most appropriate is going to be the line graph because it's over time. So the line graph shows change over time. And in this case, our time is going to be those 6 months, so the monthly change. The data below shows the number of clear days and the number of cloudy and partly cloudy days for selected months in Oceanside. So which type of graph would be the best to show this? Well, because it's dealing with the months, we could use a line graph. And we would probably want to use two probably have one that has 2 lines on it, one for clear days and one for cloudy and partly cloudy days. So we would use the line graph because it shows change over time. Okay, number 6. Mrs. Dunn collected data about 3 popular instruments that students in her class play at home or in the school band. The results are shown in the table below. Well, this table is shown in percents. So because this is shown in percents, we want to use the circle graph. Because the circle graph compares part to whole. Okay, and back here on this number 5, we could have, I used the line graph, but we could have also used the double bar graph since there's 2 categories here. Either one of those would have worked. And we're going to take this piece of paper and we are going to fold it just about in half. And we're going to go back to our page with the criteria for a good graph. And we're going to tape it right underneath it. So that we'll be able to have both of these on the same page.